Hi, this is Andrew again. This is the second video in the series on giants. In the first video we covered most of the stories from the Old Testament about giants except for the stories of the giants that remained in Gaza, in Gath, and in Ashdod. These were cities in the coastal plain, the territory of the Philistines, which was not part of the land fully conquered by Joshua during his lifetime. This small, seemingly insignificant detail is a masterful piece of narrative foreshadowing. It leaves the door open for future conflict. It ensures that the saga of the giants is not over. The remnant of the Anakim would find refuge among the Philistines, and from there, they would emerge one last time to challenge a new generation of Israel's leaders. The book of Joshua reinforces this victory in its summary of the conquest. Joshua 14 verse 15 reiterates that Hebron, given to Caleb, was formerly called Kiriath Arba, because Arba was the greatest man among the Anakim. By taking possession of Hebron, Caleb is not just claiming land, he is claiming a trophy, demonstrating that the greatest man among the giants has been defeated by a man who wholly followed the Lord. Similarly, Joshua 15 verses 13 to 14 describes Caleb's personal campaign to drive out the three sons of Anak, Sheshai, Ahiman, and Talmai, from Hebron, fulfilling the promise he made decades earlier. Caleb, a man of unwavering faith, personally finishes the job that the faithless spies were too afraid to even begin. The narrative of the giants goes quiet for several centuries, during the period of the Judges. But the remnant that fled to the Philistine cities of Gath and Gaza was biding its time. The final act of the biblical giants saga unfolds in the books of 1 and 2 Samuel, during the reign of Israel's first kings, Saul and David. Here, the giants re-emerge not as a vast population or a territorial threat, but as individual champions, the ultimate warriors of Israel's arch-nemesis, the Philistines. The most famous of all biblical giants is, of course, Goliath of Gath. His story in 1 Samuel 17 is the archetype of the underdog narrative, but it is deeply rooted in the history of the giants. The text introduces him with meticulous detail. A champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine camp. His height was 6 cubits and a span, about 9 feet 9 inches. He had a bronze helmet on his head and wore a coat of scale armor of bronze weighing 5,000 shekels, about 125 pounds. On his legs he wore bronze greaves, and a bronze javelin was slung on his back. His spear shaft was like a weaver's rod, and its iron point weighed 600 shekels, about 15 pounds. 1 Samuel 17 verses 4 to 7. Goliath is not just a big man, he is a walking fortress, a technological marvel of ancient warfare. His size is intimidating, but his armor and weaponry are designed to make him invincible. He is the perfect embodiment of Philistine military might. Crucially, his origin is specified, from Gath. This immediately connects him back to the remnant of the Anakim mentioned in Joshua 11. Goliath is not just a Philistine, he is an Anakite, a descendant of the Nephilim, the last great champion of the giant lineage. The confrontation between David and Goliath is therefore more than a battle between two men. It is a theological showdown. Goliath represents the old order of strength, size, and worldly power. He defies the armies of the living God, 1 Samuel 17 verse 26, cursing David by his pagan gods. David, in contrast, represents the new order of faith. He refuses Saul's armor, recognizing that his strength does not lie in conventional weapons. He declares, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." 1 Samuel 17 verse 45. When David's sling sinks the stone into Goliath's forehead, it is not just a lucky shot. It is a divine declaration. The power of the living God, wielded through a faithful shepherd boy, has triumphed over the last great champion of the Rephaim. The seed of the woman has crushed the head of the serpent's champion. Goliath's fall signals the beginning of the end for the giant lineage and the rise of the Davidic kingdom, a kingdom established not on might, but on a covenant with God. Goliath's death was not the absolute end of the giants. The final chapters of their story are found in 2 Samuel 21 and 1 Chronicles 20, which describe a series of battles that occurred later in David's reign. These passages reveal that Goliath was not an anomaly but part of a family or clan of giants from Gath. 2 Samuel 21 describes a time of famine that afflicts Israel for 3 years. When David seeks the Lord, he is told that it is because Saul and his blood-stained house had put the Gibeonites to death. To atone for this broken treaty, David allows the Gibeonites to execute 7 of Saul's male descendants. Following this act of atonement and justice, a series of battles with the Philistines ensues, in which David's men face down 4 more giants. After this, there was still another battle with the Philistines at Gob. At that time Sibbecai the Hushathite killed Saph, one of the descendants of the Rephaim. In another battle with the Philistines at Gob, Elhanan son of Jair the Bethlehemite killed the brother of Goliath the Gittite, who had a spear with a shaft like a weaver's rod. In still another battle, which took place at Gath, there was a huge man with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in all. He also was descended from Rapha. When he taunted Israel, Jonathan son of Shimea, David's brother, killed him. 2 Samuel 21 verses 18 to 22, NIV. This passage is a treasure trove of information. It explicitly identifies Saph as one of the descendants of the Rephaim. It clarifies the earlier account in 2 Samuel 21 verse 19, and its parallel in 1 Chronicles 20 verse 5, by stating that Elhanan killed the brother of Goliath, not Goliath himself, resolving a long-standing textual discrepancy. Finally, it describes the huge man with polydactylism, 6 fingers and 6 toes, as being descended from Rapha. Rapha is likely the eponymous ancestor or name for the Rephaim clan, solidifying their identity. These were not random large men, they were Gittites, from Gath, and they were Rephaim. They were Goliath's kin. The fact that David did not face them himself is also significant. The task of finishing the giants fell to his mighty men, his elite warriors. Sibbecai the Hushathite, Elhanan the Bethlehemite, and Jonathan son of Shimea were the instruments of God's final judgment on the giant lineage. David had established the principle of faith over might, now his loyal followers applied it, systematically wiping out the last of the Rephaim champions. 1 Chronicles 20 recounts these same battles, often with slight variations, reinforcing their importance. The chronicler, writing for a post-exile audience, saw these victories as foundational to the glory of David's kingdom. They were not mere footnotes but defining moments that demonstrated God's power working through Israel's greatest warriors. The chronicler's account serves to remind the returning exiles that the God who helped David conquer the giants was the same God who had brought them back from Babylon. The defeat of the Rephaim was a permanent part of their national identity and a testament to God's enduring sovereignty. So, what was the theology of the Titans? What did the giants represent? Having traced the narrative arc of the giants from Genesis to Chronicles, we can now step back to address the most profound questions. Why were the giants so important? What did they represent? Their presence in the biblical text is far from incidental. They are a powerful and multifaceted theological symbol that deepens our understanding of the biblical worldview. 1. The embodiment of cosmic rebellion. At their core, the giants represent the tangible, physical consequence of cosmic rebellion. The Nephilim of Genesis 6 were the product of an unholy union, a direct assault on the boundaries God established between the angelic and human realms. They were the fruit of the sin of the sons of God, a demonic attempt to contaminate the human gene pool and thwart God's plan of redemption. Every subsequent giant, the Anakim, the Rephaim, the Emim, is a post-flood echo of this original transgression. They are a walking, breathing reminder that the spiritual battle between God and the forces of darkness can and does spill over into the physical world. Their immense size and violent nature are outward signs of their inward, corrupted origin. They are the seed of the serpent in its most literal and monstrous form. 2. The antithesis of faith. The giants function as the ultimate test of faith for God's people. They are the physical manifestation of the impossible. The 10 spies in Numbers 13 saw the Anakim and immediately concluded, "We can't." They allowed their perception of the problem to eclipse their perception of God's power. The giants became the focal point of their unbelief. In stark contrast, Caleb and Joshua saw the same giants and saw an opportunity for God to demonstrate his might. For them, the giants were not a reason to retreat but a reason to advance in faith. This pattern repeats itself throughout the narrative. The Israelites' fear of the giants kept them wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. David's faith in God, not his own ability, allowed him to defeat Goliath. The giants serve as a theological measuring stick. Are you looking at the size of your enemy, or are you looking at the size of your God? 3. The Old Order versus the New Covenant. The giants are inextricably linked to the old order of Canaan, the pagan, idolatrous, and morally corrupt system that God was judging and dispossessing. They are the strong men of that old order, the foundational power structure upon which kingdoms like those of Og, Sion, and the Anakite city-states were built. The conquest of Canaan was therefore not just a land grab but a divine act of deconstruction, tearing down the old to make way for the new. The establishment of Israel was the inauguration of a new order, a nation built not on might and genetic superiority, but on a covenant with Yahweh. The eradication of the giants was the necessary prerequisite for establishing this holy nation. Their removal symbolized the complete removal of the old system's power and influence. 4. The ultimate validation of divine power. By setting up these seemingly invincible foes, the biblical narrative creates the perfect stage for God to display his power. No human could hope to defeat a race of Nephilim-descended warriors on their own. The victories are always attributed to the Lord. Deuteronomy 3 verse 6 states that God destroyed the Rephaim before the Ammonites. Joshua 10 verse 14 says that the Lord fought for Israel. David explicitly declares to Goliath that the battle is the Lord's. The giants are the ultimate foil, the dark background against which the light of God's power shines most brilliantly. Their defeat serves as irrefutable proof that Yahweh is not just one God among many, but the supreme God of the heavens and the earth, for whom nothing is too difficult. The evidence, when woven together from across the biblical canon, presents a remarkably consistent and compelling picture. The giants are not a collection of unrelated folktales but a continuous narrative thread. Their ancestry, the most coherent scholarly position is that the post-flood giants were the descendants of the Nephilim, either through a second angelic incursion or through the re-emergence of a corrupted lineage that survived the flood in some manner. The spies' direct link in Numbers 13 between the Anakim and the Nephilim is the linchpin. The various names, Anakim, Rephaim, Emim, Zamzummim, are presented as related clans or regional names for this overarching race of mighty men. The Rephaim, with their connection to the shades of the dead, most clearly retain the memory of their demonic, otherworldly origin. Their geography, the narrative traces a clear geographical path for these giants. They once dominated a vast swath of the ancient Near East, from Bashan in the north, Og, to the plains of Moab and Ammon in the east, Emim, Zamzummim, to the hill country of Judah in the west, Anakim. The biblical text portrays God as using a scorched earth policy, employing various nations to dispossess these giant clans before Israel's arrival, culminating in Joshua's final campaign against the Anakim heartland. The final remnant flees to the Philistine cities, where they are extinguished by David and his mighty men. Their historical reality, while the biblical language is often grand and hyperbolic, the specificity of the details argues against a purely mythical interpretation. The measurement of Og's bed, the description of Goliath's armor, the naming of individual giants like Saph and the brother of Goliath, and the identification of the warriors who killed them all lend a historical flavor to the accounts. It is plausible that these were real tribal confederacies known for their unusually tall stature, whose reputation was magnified in the retelling and infused with theological significance. They were likely men of great height and strength, perhaps suffering from a form of gigantism, whose lineage and fearsome reputation were mythologized and linked back to the primordial sin of Genesis 6 to explain their origin and justify their destruction. In conclusion, there is an enduring legacy of the biblical giants. The saga of the giants in the Bible is a narrative of immense theological depth. It begins with a cataclysmic act of rebellion in the mists of antiquity and ends with the final, desperate gasps of a dying lineage on the battlefields of the Davidic kingdom. They are more than just curiosities or monsters, they are a central pillar of the Old Testament's worldview. They prove that the conflict between God and evil is not abstract but is fought on the earth, in history, and in the flesh. They serve as the ultimate challenge to the faith of God's people, forcing them to choose between trusting in their own limited strength or in the unlimited power of their covenant God. Their systematic destruction serves as a powerful validation of God's promises and His sovereignty over the nations and the forces of darkness. To read the story of Israel without understanding the giants is to miss a crucial dimension of the drama. It is to read of a promised land without understanding the nature of the evil that inhabited it. It is to read of David's victory without understanding the weight of the lineage he defeated. The giants are the shadow that makes the light of God's redemption shine all the brighter. They are the titans of the text, and their defeat is a testament to the ultimate truth of the biblical story, that no matter how great the darkness, no matter how mighty the foe, the purposes of God will prevail, and His people, when they stand in faith, will overcome. The giants fell, but the God who felled them endures forever. I hope this gives you a better understanding of the stories of giants in the Bible and why these stories are important. Although there still is some mystery about these stories and how the giants after the flood were created, I hope you have a better understanding of God's mission for Israel when they entered the Promised Land and how they were able to finally defeat this giant race which Satan was hoping would eliminate the chosen people to prevent God's plan for the coming Messiah. To watch more videos like this one, you can go to our website at nehemiahreset.org, to our rumble.com or youtube.com channels. We publish new videos weekly. You can also sign up to receive our weekly new video list by going to nehemiahreset.org/email and sign up for our weekly newsletter. To help our channel, please like and subscribe so that more people can see these important videos. Thanks for watching and have a great day.
Are you looking for a limitless supply of insightful reads to expand your mind and transform your life? Look no further than Nehemiah Reset's ebook library, where knowledge meets inspiration at nehemiahreset.org ebook. Go there today to discover a wealth of valuable resources to help you on your personal and professional journey to build a biblical worldview. Learn more about the Bible and how culture is impacting your worldview. Again, the ebook library is located at nehemiahreset.org ebook. Hope to see you soon. My name is Andrew. I am one of the spokespersons for Nehemiah Reset. The prior video was sponsored by Nehemiah Reset, a 501c3. Our mission is to assist Christians in developing a biblical worldview as it pertains to relevant cultural and biblical issues. We seek to inform Christ's followers, equip them, and mobilize them in action to vote for their biblical values and actively engage in our We are also committed to help Christians and non-believers to develop a better biblical view. Nehemiah Reset produces videos and ebooks to assist members of the church in developing a biblical worldview when it comes to cultural issues. We produce videos on key topics like public school indoctrination, the woke agenda, sex education, equity and inclusion, climate change, immigration, religious freedom, and much, much more. To learn more about Nehemiah Reset or to watch our latest videos, go to our website at nehemiahreset.org or our rumble.com channel. We produce 2 to 3 videos every week. To get a weekly list of our latest videos, sign up for our weekly newsletter by going to nehemiahreset.org/email and subscribe. You can support our website by liking our videos, subscribing to our channels, or helping us reach more people through tax-exempt donations. Thanks for your help in growing God's kingdom and bringing more people to Christ. Thank you for your support and help. Come back again soon. Have a great day.